Hello world! Today we are going to talk about eyeshadow placement strategy. Hey everybody, Shelly here, and today we are going to talk about eyeshadow, and this is a new series that I have been planning for a little while about how to place eyeshadow, how to pick your colors, how to enhance different eye shapes and eye colors, how to choose your brushes, all about applying eyeshadow. Now, I am not a makeup artist. I am not a professional at any of this. I watch a lot of makeup artists on YouTube, and that's kind of why I'm making this video. So watching the makeup artists is very helpful. I've learned so much from so many of the great beauty gurus on YouTube, but a lot of times I have trouble translating the techniques that they're showing, which they make look so easy, onto my eyes. So I wanted to sort of put together a strategy, a plan, some step-by-step actions that you can refer to so that when you want to make an eye look, you don't have to go look up a video and copy it color by color by color. You will know the strategy behind how to create those looks, and then you can start experimenting on your own, because once you have that framework in place, it's a lot easier to try things out and go on your own and see how it goes. For so long, I just copied exactly what everybody else was doing, and that's fine, and it always worked out. Well, for the most part, it worked out pretty well, but when you want to start using these great palettes that you've got and you just can't find a tutorial that has the color scheme that you're looking for, this is why I'm making this series. I wanted to put together sort of the strategy, the tips, the tricks. I'm not a pro. In fact, up until a few years ago, I was working with only the instructions on the back of the drugstore eyeshadow palettes using the soft little sponge applicators that came with those palettes. So this is all new to me, so I'm hoping really not that I'm a guru sharing my vast knowledge with you, but hopefully I'm sharing the tips and tricks I've learned along the way, the struggles I've had. Maybe you have similar struggles, maybe this helps you find your way through, and that's kind of my goal. So I'm going to go through in this video shadow placement strategies, how you can choose where on your eye you're going to place different colors. Now I'm going to use a variety of palettes. I've got my Urban Decay Naked Smoky here. I've got my Kat Von D Metal Matte. I just picked up the KathleenLights Morphe palette. These are not palette specific looks. You can make these looks with any palette you've got, with any colors you've got. The whole point here is learn the sort of placement strategies and then use that as your map and try it with all different colors. Try each strategy with all different colors, and that's the plan. So I hope this is something that you will find helpful. If you would like to see more in this series, things I've got in mind are how to choose colors, color theory, the color wheel, how to use your eye shape or the features of your eyes to your advantage to highlight them, your eye shape, your eye color, how to choose brushes, what a good basic brush set looks like, what brushes are used for what things, what's best, what doesn't work very well, that kind of stuff. So if you'd like to see more of these, please subscribe and give me comments down below as to what you struggle with in terms of eyeshadow and what you would like to see some tools, tips, techniques on. Leave that down in the comments. So let's get into this and check out some eyeshadow placement strategies. Are we ready? Let's do this. So first off, I want to get some of the basic terminology out of the way so that when we're referring to different parts of the eye, we're all on the same page. So there are some general terms that we use to refer to the different parts of the eye. The obvious that you've probably heard are your brow bone, which is right at your eyebrows, your lash line or your upper lash line, your lower lash line, and then the parts of the eye you'll hear the word transition or transition shades, and what we're talking about is the space between your crease and your brow bone that you generally want to have a nice, smooth gradient transition that starts from color and ends up fading into nothing or fading into brightness if you use a highlight at your brow bone. So it's generally that area above your crease to your brow bone. So your crease is the area that is formed by your eye socket. So we've got our eye socket here, and you can feel the lower part of your brow bone. So your crease is that natural crease where your eye socket, the top of your lid, meets that lower part of your eye socket. And if you've got hooded lids, you're going to be dealing with extra skin in that transition area that comes down and sort of covers your crease, so that when you're looking straight ahead, you don't see as much of your lid space. So your lid is that half moon shaped crease and everything down to your lash line. So hooded lids have, see this sort of extra skin that I've got going on in my transition area? That folds down when I'm looking straight on and covers up a good portion of my eyelid. Mine aren't completely hooded, so you do see a little bit of the lash line area, but that is something that as you get older, often your eyes will get a little bit more sort of saggy or droopy. Some people are just born with hooded lids, and it's like this from day one. Mine have always been a little hooded, but they're getting worse as I get older. Now, I do plan to have a whole video on different eye shapes and kinds of challenges you'll be working with, but just know that throughout this video I am dealing with hooded eyes, and I'll refer to anything that is sort of different just because I've got hooded lids. When we measure out the different areas of our eye to place color, we're generally going to be talking in thirds, and the easiest way to measure out your thirds is to use your iris, the colored part of your eye. So the beginning of your iris toward the inner part of your eye, toward your nose, so this would be your inner third of your eye, and your outer third, if you put a brush or your finger to the outside of your iris, that outer third is everything from that outside part of your iris to the outer corner of your eye, and the rest is the center. Now, people will talk about an outer V, and that is just the natural shape that's created by imaginary line from your lower lash line to the corner of your eye, and then the equivalent corner going this way into your crease. And so that outer third, when mapped into a V shape, would be your outer V. Typically, people will refer to the outer V as a pretty distinct V shape, and then the outer third or outer corner would be the entire inner third, often still done in a V shape, but with more coverage toward the center of the eye. Now, as you get older, if you are having issues with sort of drooping skin here, your outer V might be more of an outer 7, which is generally what I've got going on. If I make my shadow into a V shape, it actually ends up sort of drooping my eyes, because my lash line, it would naturally end here, but this skin is pretty droopy. So in order to sort of lift my eyes a little bit more, instead of thinking of this as a V that goes to the corner, I think of it as a 7 that ends kind of by the tail of my eyebrow, and it still makes a point, but it's more of an inverted number 7 on the right side and a regular number 7. Which way do you do 7? This way. 7. I guess it's inverted to you guys, but a 7 nonetheless, so that the point is a little bit higher than the corner of your eye. Instead of going to the corner of your eye, you're talking about a slightly higher point and just kind of drawing a 7 shape in that outer third area of your eye. You'll hear mention of the inner corner highlight. That is generally the very inner corner of your eye. Some people bring this all the way into the inner third and the inner third of the lower lash line as well. Some people will just limit it to that very, very inner corner. But using a highlight in that inner corner sort of brightens your eyes, helps you look a little bit more awake. It's a good thing if you've got dark circles. If you see how my dark circles, they not only go all the way under my eye, but they also travel up into the crevice on the inner corner of my nose. So a highlight there helps to offset some of the darkness that happens with my dark inner circles, because even when I've got concealer and things, this sort of, it's a concave sort of a shape as well, so that can help to brighten things up. So that is the general placement of things that we're going to be talking about, the terminology of the areas where we are going to place color on our eyes. First up, one of the simplest ways to approach your placement of color is a very basic 2 to 3 color approach. And when I say 3 color, I'm counting a brow bone highlight, which is optional, and I use a brow bone highlight on almost all my looks, but I don't even really count it in a color because I have the same highlight that I can grab if my palette doesn't have one. So it's basically a 2-color look with a potential for a brow bone highlight. Now, you'll find a lot of eyeshadow quads and trios and things. Like this trio, it's a Wet n Wild trio. They've got all of their colors labeled. They've got it labeled eyelid for this green, crease for the dark shade, and then brow bone for the color at the top. Now, you could take that route and you'd be perfectly fine. It's a very quick, basic look. What I like to do for a look like this is put in a transition crease color and then use a darker color all over my lid and then just blend the two together. So I have a few palettes we're going to work with today. Let's see, what did I grab? I've got the KathleenLights Morphe palette. I've got the Kat Von D Metal Matte palette. I've got the Urban Decay Naked Smoky. All of these things are not specific to these palettes. You can do these with any colors of any shadows. This is just sort of strategy for placement of color. I also have what we're going to use for this first little demo is a single shadow from NYX. This is called Punk Heart. This is one of my favorites for a super quick go-to out the door kind of a look. Now, for every look, you are going to want to use eyeshadow primer. It is your friend, especially if you have hooded lids, but even if you don't, eyeshadow primer or even placing concealer onto your lids gives your shadow a base to cling to. It will help to enhance the color and pigmentation of the shadows you choose. It's going to help to hold them in place so they don't transfer all over your lids or fall out over the course of the day. It's just going to help keep things looking nice and true the way you started out. So I'm starting with the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I use all kinds of eyeshadow primers. I have the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. I really like the Wet n Wild Photo Focus eyeshadow primer. There are just lots of options out there, and I haven't really found any that I don't like. I've now got eyeshadow primer all over my lashes. Now I like to apply my primer, and if my nails are too long, I can't really get onto my lid without scratching my primer all over the place, so I use a concealer brush to apply my primer. You can just use your fingertip if you don't have fingernail issues like I do. But I'm just going to take this all over my lid from lash line all the way to brow bone. And if you plan to put shadow underneath your lower lash line, then you may want to put some primer down there too to help everything sort of stay in place and stay fresh and true and vibrant throughout the entire day. So for this look, you basically need 2 colors. You need a transition shade, which is typically a matte shade because it is going to go into your crease and slightly above. So generally you want your lids to be your pop, your brightness, and especially if you have hooded lids or hooded eyes, you want the crease area to sort of recede and not be as dominant. Most of us have the most space for color on our lids, so that's part of why you want to emphasize that while causing the rest to recede. So your shimmers are going to bring something forward and pop to the front and draw attention, whereas matte and darker shades are going to cause color to recede, look less prominent, less obvious. So for a transition color, I'm usually looking for something soft, light, that will make a smooth transition. Now, you want a fluffy brush for this. This is a Wet n Wild brush. I believe they called it a crease blending brush, but usually they're tapered, and this goes out to the sides instead of into the center. It's kind of bizarre, but I do like this brush for a nice diffused, really soft, sort of blown out look, which is good for transition color because you want to go from sort of color to nothing. So I'm going to go into the KathleenLights palette, and I'm just going to get this sort of brownish orange, sort of light shade on this brush. And I'm going to put it in the crease area, and we just want to blow this out nice and soft. Now you see how big this brush is, so you really cannot get super precise placement of color with this brush, but you wouldn't use it for that. You would use it for nice, soft, blown out, smooth color. And I'm doing a combination of like windshield wiper plus sort of circular motions. I find that the combo just works best to distribute color and get it nice and smooth and even. So that is the transition. And now I'm going to go on to the lid with my darker color, that NYX shade. This is a small shader brush from Real Techniques. I got this at Kohl's. It was the only time I saw a Real Techniques brush sold separately by itself. And I'm going to use this Punk Heart by NYX. And I like this brush because it's dense enough to pack some color on, but it's fluffy enough to get a little bit of placement for blending. You still need to go back in and blend with a blending brush, but this one's a good one to start with. So I'm just going to pat this color into place starting at my lash line. I'm going to do my whole lid area here, all the way to the outer corner. And then as the color is being removed from my brush, then I'm going to move it up into the crease. Now with this two color approach, I kind of cheat a little bit and use this color both as my lid and my crease color. So it's just a really fast, easy way to get some nice color, some dimension. So to get it into the crease, I want a soft, fluffy, but still somewhat dense brush. This is from Glamour Dolls. It's brush number 10. I call it my whale brush. I got it in an Ipsy bag, and I really like it for placing deep into the crease. Not for blown out color, because it's too precise for that, but getting color deep into the crease line. So that's what I'm going to do with this brush, and I'm just going to take that same purple into the crease. Now this purple has a little bit of shimmer, and for me it's going to be okay because my crease is mostly hidden when I look straight on because of the hood of my lid. So I can kind of get away with this, and I'm not going to take it high enough that the shimmer is going to cause trouble in terms of making my hood look exaggerated. So this is just to sort of blend the color so we get a smooth transition from the crease color into our transition shade. Now I have a little bit of fallout, which is why I did not do my complexion just yet. And for fallout, I just have this sort of semi-fluffy Morphe brush that I like to just get everything away. Now, if you want to do your complexion first, you can, one of the easiest ways to do this is to, after you get your concealer and foundation, everything on, put a heavier than usual bit of translucent powder under your eye so that when you're done with your eye look, you can just brush the excess away and any fallout will go with it. You can also use things called shadow shields. So they're like little half moon shaped little pieces of, I don't know, sort of like tissue. They've got adhesive on them, and you stick them to your eye underneath. And these can be used also to give yourself like a cat eye shape. They will catch any fallout and then you just remove them. But the sticky is so sticky that if I've already got my concealer and my foundation on, it peels a lot of that off and I have to redo that anyway. And the sticky is so extreme that even if I pull it off on my hand a few times, it still seems really strong and I feel like I'm creating wrinkles under my eyes. So I only use the shadow shields when I really want to use them to make some kind of a wing shape or something like that, but those are another option that you can go to. Now at this point I would finish up with eyeliner, mascara, and there's your finished look. One thing I do want to say is as you're going through this, if your eyeshadow is not turning out the way you want, sometimes if it's not catastrophic, just keep going, because your liner and mascara can really finish off a look that you didn't think was going to get there. So don't panic, ride it out. If it's not a catastrophic failure, keep going, because you might end up liking the look at the end when you get everything pulled together. But this is just your basic approach for a 2-color. You could go in with a brow bone highlight if you wanted to. When I do this look, I basically just stop there and call it a day. Next up, we're going to look at a basic 3-color look that takes advantage of the crease area and our transition area and the lower lash line. So for this look, we're going to start with a transition color. I'm going to use that KathleenLights palette again and that same transition shade, and a darker color in the crease, and then something a little sparkly for the overall lid color. And this is a really simple look to put together, but it usually looks really nice and polished and beautiful. So I'm going to take that same very fluffy blending brush and dip into that color for our transition. And I just want, again, that nice smoky, soft transition that goes from like color to nothing, from the crease up to the brow bone in a nice soft gradient from dark to light, because my lid is going to be the darkest part with the crease, and then the brow bone, of course, is the lightest area. So there's my transition color in place. Next, I want the crease, and for this I'm going to switch to my Sigma E25 blending brush. This is it's sort of flat, so do you see how it's a sort of a flat shape? It's a tapered brush, so it fits into the crease really nice, and because it's got that tapering down to the side, you can, when you're positioned into the socket of the crease of your eye, you'll be able to get a little color on both sides, the top and the bottom, blended as you go. So this is a really nice brush, especially if you've got hooded lids. So we're going to go a little bit darker into the crease. I'm going to take this brown right here and get just a little bit on my brush. And we want this to stay lower than the transition color. We want it into the crease, but we don't want to overwhelm what we did with the transition color. And most of the time you want most of your color to be on the outer corner of your crease, and then once you've got some color placed, drag the rest of it into the center so that the most of your color ends up in the outer corner and then slowly sort of builds toward the inner corner of your eye. And we're kind of just windshield wiper motions with this one, because this brush kind of fits right into the socket there, and then as you go back and forth you're placing color, because you get the color on both sides of that flat part of the brush, and it just kind of helps you blend it in. Having the right brushes really helps so much in terms of getting a good eye look. I would have never believed it, but I'm a believer. I am now a believer. So that is our slightly darker crease color. Now I'm also going to take this down to my lower lash line. So I'm going to start, generally you want the darker color of your lower lash line to be closest to the lash line, and then smoke it out or blend it out with a lighter color. So I'm going to use that same color that we started with, actually the darker color. I'm going to get a small liner brush, if I can find it. Here we go. This is my Morphe M508, and it's just a flat, sort of stiff, rounded oval top brush that I really like for lower lash line. I'm going to dip into that brown, that darker brown, and take this all the way under my lash line. Again, you want to start in the outer corner so that the majority of color that you put down ends up there, and it fades as you go toward the center of the eye. And I'm going to use that same E25 Sigma blending brush with the first lighter brown and just take that just under the dark brown we just did. Just to sort of blend it and make it soft and smoky. If you want something more dramatic with the liner, you can go in with a darker color in this sort of outer corner, but we're going to stay sort of mild for now. I'm going to get that Real Techniques small shader brush and I'm going to go into this dark shimmery brown, sort of a bronzy color. And we're going to pack this all over the lid, all the way up to the crease. Again, most of the time you want to start at your lower lash line and get the most color deposited there, and then gradually bring it upward toward your crease. I'm going to sort of map out my outer 7 just so that I have a little bit of lift in the shape of my eye here. That can also help you meet up your color if you like your color to meet up with your lower lash line color. I'm going to take a little bit of that bronze just to darken up on that same shadow brush right at the outer corner. If you have any sort of harsh lines going on, you can get a fluffy blending brush. This is an It Cosmetics brush. This is their number, they're so shiny it's hard to see, 107. And just no product, you just want to blend over the edges and sort of make sure everything's cohesive and blended and looking smooth, especially in these outer corners. See how you get a nice smooth blend? That's what you're going for. With this, you would throw on liner if you like, throw on your mascara, good to go. So there you have it. I hope you found this helpful. Please give me comments down below with what you struggle with, what you'd like to see in this series as we move forward on all about eyeshadow and putting on eyeshadow and picking eyeshadows and textures and finishes and colors and all that good stuff. So let me know down below what you would like to see most in this series and I will get to working on that next. Thanks a lot for spending some time with me geeking out over makeup. I appreciate that you've chosen to sit here for a little while and hang out with me. I appreciate it. Take care of each other. Have yourselves an awesome day, evening, week, wherever you are. And that's it. Have a good one. Bye-bye.